a cap on the size of Ukraine's military, but no caps on what the Russians can do and put in eastern Ukraine, completely naive. If there's going to be any kind of cap on the Ukrainian side, there has to be an agreement that the Russians are going to pull back, a cap on the forces that they're going to be able to keep in Ukraine.
I want to talk about kind of international affairs, but from an American perspective. It's that time of the night where Daryl often does turn stateside, partly because of the time difference. It's a great time to be able to chat to some American guests. And, of course, talks began in Switzerland today between the US, Ukraine and European allies, focusing on securing a peace deal to end the war in Ukraine. Earlier, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said tremendous progress had been made, but negotiators still needed time.
Well, I'm not going to get into the details on the issues. This is a very delicate moment, and it's important. Like I said, there's not agreement on those yet. Some of it is semantics or language. Others require higher-level decisions and consultation. Others, I think, just need more time to work through. As an aside, I will mention that there were items that we were discussing as part of the original 28, or it evolved. This is a living, breathing document. Every day with input, it changes.
Well, President Trump is now said to be pleased with the progress made so far, this despite his earlier accusations that Ukraine had shown, quote, zero gratitude for his efforts. President Zelensky also posted tonight on X saying that the ongoing negotiations signals that President Trump's team hears us. Let's talk through all this now with Charles Kupchan, a senior director formerly for the National Security Council under President Obama. Hi there, Charles.
Hi, good to be with you, Ali.
Great to have you. Thank you for making time for us. What do you say to the accusation that America has come to the table with essentially Russia's proposal?
Well, we don't actually know the genesis of this proposal. We heard from some congressmen that were at a security forum in Halifax this week, in the Halifax Security Forum, that they were told that, in fact, this was the Russian proposal that was handed to the United States, and the United States is just the intermediary and has floated it out there for consideration. Then we're told, no, that's not the case. This was carefully constructed through negotiations between the American envoy, Stephen Witkoff, and a various group of Russians, and it's a joint proposal. So we actually just don't know. I think it's safe to say that it is a proposal heavily weighted to the Russian side. Most of the points in there are talking points that the Kremlin has been putting out there for quite a long time.
Right.
So even though we don't know exactly how, where, when this plan was drafted, it definitely tilts heavily toward the Russians.
And from that point of view, does it make President Trump look weak? It's not just a case of Ukraine capitulating to Putin, but America and the West by extension.
I probably would pick a different adjective. Weak, yeah, maybe, but just confused and disoriented. From the very beginning, Trump's effort to bring this war to an end, and I applaud him for trying to end the war at the negotiating table. It's been a mess, right? At the beginning, they just sort of reached out to the Russians, picked up the phone, 6 or 7 conversations between Trump and Putin, a face-to-face meeting in Alaska, which was a big win for Putin. We don't know if anything came out of that meeting. And now we have yet another gambit, this 28-point plan, and it is unclear completely whether Putin is negotiating in good faith. Is he just playing for time? Is he taking advantage of Trump? Or are they really interested in ending this war? Are they really interested in arriving at a formula that Ukrainians can live with? So far, it seems the answer to that question is no. But let's see what emerges from this conversation in Geneva and other talks that are going to take place in the coming days.
Yeah, well, if indeed they do live with it. Earlier this evening, I was speaking to Alexei Goncharenko, who's a Ukrainian MP. This is what he had to say about Russia taking control of Crimea and parts of the Donbass, which is what's being negotiated.
First of all, we need to clarify what does it mean ceding, because we are not going to accept that these territories are Russian. And I'm sure that the whole civilized world is not going to accept this. These territories will have the status of temporarily occupied, illegally occupied by Russia, and de facto controlled by Russia. So we're not speaking about Syrian territory. But yes, I think that Russia is pushing forward some unrealistic demands, just trying to destroy any negotiations, because Putin doesn't want peace. If Putin would want peace, the war would finish long, long ago. But Putin doesn't want peace, but he tries to make everything to make Ukraine guilty of this.
So I guess the point is there, Charles, whatever happens, whatever is agreed, even if this plan does get agreed by all sides, has there been enough due consideration of what happens next when there's still clear tensions? Ukraine might be asked to halve the size of its army, and the people living in these territories don't want to be Russian.
Well, listen, I think that there are many, many provisions in the agreement that are poison pills, and that nobody should accept them in their current form. And I'll just mention a few. One is the one that your guest from Ukraine just mentioned, and that is, even if we accept that the Russians are going to hold on to the 20% of Ukraine that they occupy, nobody should recognize this part of Ukraine as part of Russia. That would be to legalize illegality. Pragmatism may say, hey, the Ukrainians aren't going to get this back. We're going to have to live with a long-term occupation, but certainly no recognition. The second one, a cap on the size of Ukraine's military, but no caps on what the Russians can do and put in eastern Ukraine, completely naive. If there's going to be any kind of cap on the Ukrainian side, there has to be an agreement that the Russians are going to pull back, a cap on the forces that they're going to be able to keep in Ukraine. There was a provision that said elections in 100 days. Is that a veiled call for regime change? They're going to topple Zelensky? You can't have elections in 100 days in a country that's been bombed for 3 years. So there's a lot of stuff that needs to be changed. But listen, let's give Trump a chance. Let's see if something worthwhile can emerge. I have my doubts, but let's see what happens.
All right. Charles, pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be with you. Good night.
Good night. Charles Kupchan there, Senior Director formerly for the National Security Council under President Obama. Give Trump a chance, he said there.